Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear students, this is the advanced level video. And in this video, we're going to talk about the steps that you can take to strengthen your muraja'ah or your revision of what you've memorized from the Quran. We always have to do revision. If not, we're going to forget what we've memorized from the Quran. So the revision that you want to do, you can employ the steps that are contained in this video. There are actually 4 steps in this video. We're going to talk about these 4 steps to strengthen your muraja'ah, your revision of what you have memorized from the Quran so far. Now, the first step is to create a mind map. A mind map of the surah or juzu you have memorized. Now, a mind map is a very powerful tool. It gives you, in one glance, an overall picture of the content of that surah or the juzu that you have memorized. And this will assist you when you do your muraja'ah to pinpoint where in that surah or juzu you have reached, right? And therefore, you know, right, how much you have covered and how much more you have to cover. And you can detect which part you have left out in your revision or your muraja'ah. So now, let's take an example of Surah Kahfi, right? A mind map of Surah Kahfi. Now, Surah Kahfi actually contains wonderful stories, but there are actually 4 stories that are noteworthy and quite lengthy. Number 1 is the story of the dwellers of the cave. Number 2 is the story of 2 brothers. We call it the siblings. Number 3, the story of Nabi Musa and Nabi Khidir. And number 4, the story of Dhul Qarnayn. And in between these 4 stories, there are smaller statements and stories, right? The sub-stories, the subplot of that whole surah. So once you have an overall picture of this surah, then when you recite that surah, you know which part you have missed out. Okay, and that surah will have a stronger impression on your mind. Now, Surah Kahfi starts with dwellers of the cave, and then it proceeds with the sub-story, a small story on the praise for the dwellers, sorry, for praise for the believers, and then it move on to the story of the 2 brothers, the siblings. Then after that, the story ends, and it talks about Yawmul Mahshar, when we all stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our judgment. So the judgment day. And after that is a sub-story, it's not that long, and then it moves on with the, if you have the praise for the believers before that, then after the Mahshar story, you have the story or the statement on the condemnation of the unbelievers, right? The kafiruns. Then after that, it moves on with the story of Nabi Musa and Nabi Khidir alayhi salam. Once the 3rd story ends, it starts with the 4th story. The 4th story follows from the 3rd story of Dhul Qarnayn. And that's the last story. Then after the story of Dhul Qarnayn, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returns back to the Mahshar theme. And what happens when people stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the fate of the believers and the unbelievers. So you have an overall picture of the content of Surah Kahfi. So that will make easier for you to do your revision or muraja'ah of Surah Kahfi. And every time you recite Surah Kahfi, you remember these 4 stories interspaced with smaller stories, the subplot, the sub-stories of the believers, the unbelievers, the Mahshar, and also again the Mahshar at the end of that surah. So you can create a mind map of your own for each juzu or each surah. Okay, but if you want to know or if you do want to create your own mind map, you can always rely on Darul Huffaz mind map, and you can find it in Darul Huffaz web page. Just click on darulhuffaz.sg/students, and you scroll down at the menu there, and then after that you click on the Tahfiz students, and you can see the mind maps of each juzu of the Quran. So there will be 30 mind maps in juzu. So you can create your own mind map for each surah if that you want to memorize or you have memorized. Now this is the first step. The second step, right, is to use the compacted juzu. Again, you can only find this in Darul Huffaz webpage, uniquely created by Darul Huffaz. Now, this compacted juzu, there are 2 pages of it. This is page 1 and then another page 2. It displays the whole juzu in just 2 pages. So imagine in the whole juzu, you have 20 pages compacted, compressed into just 2 pages. Why? So to make it easy for us as Tahfiz students to remember the whole juzu at one glance. So instead of this addition of the mind map that you have created, or you can download from the Huffaz website, this compacted juzu will assist you when you do your muraja'ah. So before you do your muraja'ah for that juzu, you take this compacted juzu, scan through all those ayats, because there are similar ayats in each juzu, and those who have memorized Quran will know that in each juzu there will be similarities between ayats and differences and this and that. There will be ayats that will be confusing to you, or this ayat is here or is that ayat there. So once you have this compacted juzu, you have one glance of it, you can identify the pitfalls, identify the similarities, so you won't make the mistakes, you will be confused on those similar ayats. For example, at one glance, you can look here, right, in juzu 3, right, you know that juzu 3 consists of 2 surahs. One is Surah Baqarah, the other one is Surah Al-Imran. But Surah Al-Imran only starts after page 9, of that juzu. Right? So for the first 8 pages of that juzu, it consists of Surah Al-Baqarah. And in this compacted juzu, you can see some similarities, right? For example, right, you can see here in the first page, this is the first page, right? And this is, if you look at this blackened part here, it means that this is on the left hand side of the page. And then you have another page here. These are 2 pages open side by side in the Mus'haf, and you have a black line in the middle. It signifies that these 2 pages are side by side, right? So you have 3 pages. And then you have another page here, 2 pages side by side. Again, we have a black line in the middle to signify that these pages are side by side. So you can see at one glance, you can have an overall picture, and it's imprinted in your mind where, when you do your revision, you are at that point of time. All right, and then you can see the similarities. In this first page, you have this beginning of Ayatul Kursi, Allahu la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum. Okay, Allahu la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum. And then you have this beginning of Surah Al-Imran, Allahu la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum. So you see similarities, right? And then you can see the similarities here in this third page. Wallahu ghaniyyun halim. And then the page after that is wa'lamu annallaha ghaniyyun hamid. So this one is ghaniyyun halim, and this another one is ghaniyyun hamid. So you won't confuse. It starts with ghaniyun halim, and then after that ghaniyun hamid. And you look at these two, lam and mim, halim and hamid. Now in Arabic alphabetical order, lam comes before mim, lam mim nun waw. So that's how you want to remember. All right, this is one of the small things that they can assist you to identify which part is halim, which part is hamid. These are part of the unique identities of each page, right? So you won't confuse this part you recite hamid. No, it should be halim, because you know why? Because lam comes first, then after that mim, hamid. So you can use this compacted juzu, right, in your revision. And so likewise, you can do the same for the second part of the juzu, right, the second hizib of that juzu. We have another 10 more pages. Find which part have similarities and which part have no similarities. Okay, now let's move on to the third step. Now, this third step here is reserved for those who know how to write in Arabic, right? This is how you write back the Quran and what we have memorized on a piece of paper, or for example, you have a special mushaf that have blank pages like in this picture here, right? Blank pages, you can write on it. This is a special mushaf printed in Indonesia, where where students of Tahfiz can practice writing on what they have memorized. This will strengthen your memorization for sure, right? Because once we write down what we memorized, yes, it's tedious process, but our memorization will be stronger in our mind. Step number 4, and this is the last step, but like they said, the last but not the least, this is the most important step of all. That is for us to perform a special salat to strengthen our memorization. Now, this special salat, you can just have the intention of performing just salat sunat, no problem at all, right? Just have intention of salat sunat, or you can have intention of salat taqwiyatul hifiz, strengthening of memorization, no problem. You just perform that salat, or you can have the intention of Salat Hajat. It's up to you. No problem. As long as it is Salat Sunat and it consists of 4 rakaat with 2 salam. Means that 2 rakaat with 1 salam, and then after that you get up again and perform another 2 rakaat with another salam. Alright? So 4 rakaat. And this is based on the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ taught Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. Now, performing salat is easy, but what is difficult for this salat, because you want to achieve something that is great, right? You want to have that Quran remain in you. So great things, you must need great sacrifices. So this salat has needs a lot of sacrifices from you. Number one, you have to perform this salat only on Friday mornings, right? Friday mornings. And you must do it after you sleep. So you sleep on Thursday night and then you wake up before Fajr, about 1 hour before Fajr on Friday morning, and you perform this salat. 1 hour is sufficient. If it's 30 minutes, I don't think it's sufficient time for you to perform all 4 rak'ats. Why? Because of the length of this surah. The length of this salat you have to perform. So that's a difficulty number 1. The challenge number 1 is to perform only after you wake up from your sleep on Friday morning before Fajr prayer. If you wake up quite late, you miss it, you cannot perform it. Number 2, you have to perform at least 3 times consecutively. So 3 Fridays consecutively. If you miss 1, you have to repeat all over again. So it's either 3 or 5 or 7 consecutive Friday mornings. The more you perform, the better will be your memorization, your hafiz of the Quran, right? So minimum is 3 Fridays. And that is the difficult part, right? Because sometimes people tend to miss out on the last Friday or on the second Friday. They do not have sufficient time, so they have to start all over again. And for ladies, right, if you have to time this Friday so that it will fall in between your 2 menstruation period. Because if your menstruation period falls on the 3rd Friday, that's it, you have to start all over again, right? So you have to be very careful on that. That is the second challenge. The third challenge is to recite these long surahs, these 4 long surahs in your salat. The first rakat you have to recite Surah Yasin after Surah Fatiha. The second rakat Surah Dukhan. The third rakat Surah Sajadah. And in the middle of Surah Sajadah you have sujud, tilawah. So you have to perform that sujud. And the fourth rakat you have to recite Surah Al-Muluk. And if you ask, I have not memorized all this surah, how can I recite it in my salat? No problem. You can take your mushaf and you can open it and you can recite it while holding the mushaf in your salat, right? And after you perform this salat, right, you read the dua that Rasulullah SAW taught Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib. And then that dua, you can find it in your Green Students Handbook, or you can download it from our website, the Darul Huffaz website, right? There is a special dua that you have to recite to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen your memorization. This practice, yes, this salat has been practiced by countless number of Tahfiz students, and all of them report positive results, right? All of them, without fail. So you perform this salat, and you can get the positive result. But of course, not instantaneously. You have to do a lot of revisions, but you find your revisions easier. And if you forget words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's easier for you to recall those verses when you do your revision, right? With this special salat. So the fourth step, even though it's number 4, but it is the most important step in strengthening your muraja'ah or helping you to do your revision of the Quran, inshallah. I make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for you to remember Al-Quran and for all of us to have Al-Quran in our heart right to the day we breathe our last breath. Amin ya rabbal alamin. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.